Good afternoon. There I am. Nice that you are here. Nice that you stay with us in this very final sessions of the Blue stage. Welcome back. So we have had luxury, we have had technology and hospitality, we had how hospitality can contribute to guest journeys, and now we are talking about how hospitality can contribute to community at large. It's a topic where me as hotel school professor also does a lot of research into, together with other colleagues of other universities, and I'm very happy to have some of them here at the stage. I share this passion of doing research about really creating resident benefit, contributing to society at large from a perspective of tourism, and yeah, let's say moving towards regenerative tourism, together with a very dear colleague, Professor Ko Koens. Koen, where are you? Oh, here are you. I would like to invite you on the stage and give the floor to you for a great panel and discussion about our shared
passion?
Interest and passion.
Yeah.
A big applause for you.
Thank you. And yeah, well, thank you everybody who's come here in the room and also who have chosen to join us online somewhere at some time. Before we start, some bad news. Ms. Inge Huybrechts can't make it because of the strikes, and also two of our panelists have to leave a bit earlier because of the strikes. Their plane is, they had to rebook to a plane, so we'll cut this session a little bit short, but I'm certain it still is going to be very nice and very exciting. We're going to talk about the added value of community-driven hotels and hybrid hospitality. Now, these are interesting concepts, and I think they can really help the industry. Because of course the hotel industry and the hospitality industry at large is one, if not the most tangible physical element of the whole tourism and leisure chain in the community. They are physically there. That is a unique characteristic, and that means that it's an excellently placed group of enterprises and people and businesses to help give back and contribute to what Caroline was already saying as regenerative tourism. A lot of talk about it, but what do we actually do there? And the hospitality and tourism industry can play a crucial role. But to do that, you hear a lot like we need to establish stronger relationships with local communities. We need to enhance the resilience of hotels, but at the same time, augment what they give back to give that broader societal value. And this is where community-driven hotels or hotels which foster on creating a sense of community among guests and residents, as well as hybrid hospitality, where, I also need to look at that, where hospitality is mixed up with other forms of hospitality, like co-working there in hotels or hospitality element. We need to look at how can these concepts achieve this, or achieve this wider goal. And there's lots of potential, but are we living up to it now? Or are we, post-COVID, just going back to normal? It's difficult, and there's still lots of difficulties probably to be overcome, but I'm not going to talk about that, because we have three very esteemed panelists who can say much more intelligent things than I can about this, who actually also know how this really works in practice. So this is what we want to do, really see like how does this work in practice. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage Ms. Gitte Mikkelsen, and I need to read this out. Gitte Mikkelsen is Senior Manager Civic Engagement at Wonderful Copenhagen. And as an ethnologist and an expert on urban development, as well as working for a tourism destination marketing and management organization, Gitte has a really keen eye for looking at different ways in which the city of Copenhagen, where she's from, can be a place of hospitality for all. Gitte, I'm certain you can say many things. Please take the stage. And you can do the slide.
Thank you, Ko. Thank you for that great introduction. Yeah? Is that my slide? Can you see it? There it is. So, thank you. Yes, I am from Copenhagen. We have a lot of hotels, and I would say a lot of potential. Me, as an ethnologist, I always like to go straight to practice, and I like to go straight to people, to actually ask what is it that you need and what is it that you want. Because in that way, we can actually make some great value, not only for the tourists, but also for the people living in the city. And my belief in is that you create really great tourism if you create a city that the locals, they like and they are proud of. So how do you use the hotels as a way of interacting? How do you use it as a place where you can actually meet each other? I like to look at this very specifically to say, let's meet over coffee. So what we did is that we gathered some of the hotels to talk about what is your possibilities to use this unique space you have. We have done it a lot with the cultural institutions, museum and such as, to use that as a space. And it's very, like for me, a great opportunity to use the hotels because the tourists are already there. We don't even have to make them go there as we do with the museums. Whether they like it or not, they are there. They're going to wake up and they're going to be at the hotel. And there we are. So how do we bring in the locals to make this meeting and to create that value? It was not really that difficult to agree on the fact that everyone likes coffee or whatever beverage they prefer. So we gave them that challenge to say, how can you welcome the locals with something they like? Maybe free coffee or just cheap coffee, to make it a place where they want to go, but also they have a reason to go and they feel welcome. Because one of the things we saw was a lot of locals, they don't really feel like the hotels are a place for them. So we want to use that potential to say it's a great space and there are some people you can meet here. So what we did was to say you have the possibility to interact when you have a reason to go. The reason to go is the coffee. And the hotels are this really great space. So let's use that space. And I'm going to elaborate on how can you do that in particularly in a way so you're actually sure that people will interact. So that is some of the great potentials I see. Of course, also, you have to look at the challenges because sometimes it's not just enough to say to the hotels, so bring everyone in and then everything will happen right away. What we see is also that you need the stakeholders to somehow understand their role, not only to open the door, but also create this interactively environment, make it interesting to go there, and also create a greater motivation to maybe even work together or be more than just a space. And that can be difficult, because they are so focused on their own business. So to make them see the big importance they have in to actually create a destination, work together with other places, or maybe just continue doing serving the coffee, but maybe also doing something more than that. So that is what I wanted to highlight.
That is amazing. Thank you very much, Gitte. And it's so interesting that there's even, with some little things like coffee, you could already do an awful lot. The next person I would like to call on stage is Laura Steden. Laura is the Director Corporate Responsibility of Dear Tour, formerly Dear Touristic Group. They changed name yesterday, so that's why I have to smile. Just heard it. Which is one of Europe's leading travel groups. It includes a variety of tour operators, travel agencies, and hotel brands. In her job, Laura is responsible for the sustainable management of activities of the group, and she's therefore very well suited to provide us with a perspective of what is the industry already doing. And I'm for one very interested and excited to hear about it. So please, Laura, get onto stage and.
Well, thank you, Co. And I will just check if we see the next slide. There we are. So, yeah, I'm the Director of Corporate Responsibility at Dare Tour Group. Very nice. Thank you for that. And yeah, as the second biggest tour operator in Europe, bigger size brings bigger responsibility. So we have a CR roof, corporate responsibility roof, called Committed to the World. And under this roof, we have 4 strategic pillars. We have sustainable product, we have environment and climate, employees, and social commitment. And today, we want to look a little bit deeper into social commitment. And there, as a big tour operator, we look from two different angles. Because on the one side, we have a hotel division. We have our own hotels, roughly about 100 hotels. And there, of course, we are in the destination. We are inside these communities. And our goal is that every hotel has a social project they support and a local social project they support. And goals are great, but I wanted to bring you an example because I think it's always then easier to understand what these projects can be. And I brought you the green buddy. You can see the green buddy, not always green, on the upper right side. They look funny sometimes, but they're actually pretty cool, I would say. So these little buddies, they are made by workshop for people with disabilities. So it is a social project in itself. But it's even cooler because you can bring these little buddies into the hotel and you can put it on the door. And then if you put it on the door, the room is not cleaned on that day. And so you also have an impact then on the environmental factors in the hotels. And you have these little buddies also in a big version in each hotel so that you can also see it. So we think it's a very cool example, just one of many, where you have an activity inside the community, support the community, but also bring something back into the hotel and then have an effect on the environmental issues in the hotel. We already have it in 5 hotels. It started in our eco-friendly hotel in Madeira, the Gallo Resort. It's already 5 hotels, but more to come for sure. And then, of course, we are a tour operator, so we're not only in our own hotels, so we have business worldwide. And then the question was, how can we also support projects worldwide, where we don't have our own hotels and projects? And there, our Dare Touristic Foundation comes into talking, because there we support projects worldwide. The foundation already turns 10 this year, and we already supported 100 projects roundabout in almost 30 countries. And I brought you one example, which also then has an influence on the local communities, which is the Smiling Gecko Resort in Cambodia. It's roughly 1 or 2 hours outside of Phnom Penh, so also an area where there's not too much tourism. And there we support the Smiling Gecko Resort, which is a really, really great project run by a Swiss photographer. And they really train in very different areas. They have a school for the kids there in the area, but they also train for service, for the kitchen, for housekeeping, and for tourism. So it links directly back then to our industry, to tourism industry. And yeah, it's actually really a great example how you can be part of the community, give something back to the community, but also get something in return, because then you can set up there yeah, a nice hotel, which is actually very, very pretty. You would be surprised, like 2 hours outside of Phnom Penh is actually yeah, quite nice. So you have a good win-win, I would say. But as Gitte also said, of course, there are not only chances, there are also challenges. And in my point of view, it's really to build up the capacities and also the know-how. So you have to train the people, and you also need the capacities in the hotels, but also from your partners to run these projects. They don't run themselves. And you need good partners, especially if you're not talking about your own hotels, then you need to work together with partners in the destination. So I think it's good to do the extra work and find very good, reliable partners so that you have projects which can run for years and years to come, and at some point also can manage them themselves and support themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's very interesting to hear from you, like all these things that you can do in individual hotels, even as small hotels, you could do that, but also as a larger group. Of course, that gives other opportunities as well. And it's very interesting that you reflect on both of them and in your challenges. It is a relational industry, so indeed these capacities and partners that can also achieve what we all want to achieve can sometimes be difficult. So thank you very much. On to the third one. Sabrina Seller. She is lecturer of the West Coast University of Applied Sciences in Heide, or in German, the Fachhochschule Westküste. And she's a board member of the German Institute for Tourism Research, where she's the team lead on resident perspectives in tourism and social sustainability. And she believes that a transformation of tourism is needed, and that this transformation can only come if we have a conscious involvement of all stakeholders that relate to the destination. So I'd love to hear more about that. Can I ask you to the stage? And I think it's a hard click.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for the introduction. West Coast, yes, we do have a West Coast in Germany. Sometimes that's underestimated here. And I brought to you an example from the West Coast as well. I have to admit, I'm not from the industry, so I'm not really involved in this project, but it's a project that we are oftentimes referring to with our students as well, because it's quite close to our university, and it's a seaside resort at the German Wadden Sea coast in a small place called St. Peter-Ording. St. Peter-Ording has 4,000 residents, and they have roughly 1.8 million overnight stays per year. So that already shows you there is a lot of pressure on the destination. We also see that the negative impacts are felt. At the same time, people love the place, people love to live there, people love to stay there. So it attracts a lot of people also to work, because it's a place where you can go kite surfing and windsurfing, and there's a lot of outdoor sports. So the little town has grown quite rapidly in the past couple of years, and as many other places have issues as well, how to get skilled workforce, and also how to ensure that there is affordable living. I believe that's a problem that many destinations face, but also organizations face. And this collective that I brought to you, the Nordsee Kollektiv in St. Peter-Ording, it's a cooperation network of 5 hotels in the place, and these hotels decided to build a crew house. It's an old house, or relatively old house, that they refurbished, rebuilt, and people that work in any of the 5 hotels, they get priority to live in this shared accommodation. So it brings a community feeling, it adds to a high quality of life. Oftentimes it's young people that come to the place because of the lifestyle there, and you have some sort of a crew house. So it builds up immediately this community feeling. They have their powerhouse, so their little gym as well, and they have a lot of network partners from the place, from different industries as well, like cafes and bars where they get discounts. So it really helps to build up a strong network. It shows how hotels that are to some degree, of course, competitors, they started to cooperate and bring up the capacity together. And I believe this is a good example that shows that cooperation needs to be done here, because there are still a lot of challenges associated. And maybe this is a little bit harsh formulated and sad, but of course, as an industry, as the hospitality industry, profit is the first thing that comes to mind. So we need to maximize profits, and especially after Corona, everyone was really, really eager to get back on track. We now see the numbers are going up again. We are back to the old normal, and the economically driven mindsets still seem to dominate. And this wouldn't apply to anyone in this room necessarily, but the wider industry does. And an issue is, of course, as well, that we are so used to these KPIs. We are so used to economically driven KPIs, and there are not really a lot of KPIs that measure beyond that. And if we are not critically reflecting on that, the growth will continue, and the hotels might not take responsibility, and they don't see their roles and responsibility in creating value co-creation. And I guess the main issue is that nobody really knows how to define value. So what is value? What does value mean? And oftentimes value is associated to money. And so I believe this is a major challenge that we face, but I guess we want to discuss a little bit more in the next couple of minutes.
Thank you. We definitely do want to discuss a little bit more. And again, thank you also for your contribution. Very nice to see how even competitors can work together to create a value, like you were saying, for basically the community that goes beyond just basically the industry. It's just really placing hospitality and tourism in a broader perspective. We indeed have some basically statements for you, and I hope this works. We have a Slido with that, but I don't know if the Slido is online, that you can see that you can register. Can we get the Slido online? Otherwise, you can probably link somewhere else. It is coming. And you can already read the statement. We would like to hear basically from you, the audience, what you think of these statements. Of course, our panel will also reflect on it. And once you've basically said what you said, there's also the opportunity for people in the room to ask a question. Caroline is walking around with a microphone. There she is. and she has a great scarf that basically reflects the light, so you can always see her. So that's a very good thing that you basically then ask your questions as well. That's basically the idea of what we're going to do. And I presume basically that the Slido will come online very soon. It's there? Oh my God, how great is that? Basically, that means that you can link to the app or to the website, and you can start voting on this statement. And the statement is that hotels are crucial for building a bridge between locals and tourists. We need real engagement here, starting with potential employees and their families. It'll be very interesting to see if you agree with this or not. I know you've been Slidoed to death probably already today. So we've made this very simple. It's just a yes or no. There's no more difficult things. This is just yes or no. And we all realize this is too simplistic. Reality is more nuanced. But for now, it's very interesting to get just a perspective of what's happening in the room and what is going on here. But anyway, before we hear back from what you've said, it might be interesting to already get a perspective from one of our panelists. Laura, can I ask you to say something about this?
Sure. So, well, yeah, I would agree, but I think we have to separate maybe our view there a little bit, because I think if we look into locations which are overcrowded, also what you just mentioned, it's very, very different and more complex probably. If we take my example from the Smiling Gecko project in Cambodia, where there's actually not much development in their area, it can really be a great bridge. And if tourism is done right, it in general can be a great bridge because it offers jobs. If done right, it can offer trainings and so on. So especially I think in destinations where tourism is the only way to offer jobs, or where there's no development at all, it can really build a bridge. If we take the Smiling Gecko project, for example, once again, it's a very wholesome approach because it offers trainings, and then they also have housing there, they have a school there, so they have a great effect then on the families, on the kids, and so on. If the project wouldn't be there, there would be more or less nothing, right? There would be like scatters of populations here and there. So there it's for sure a very good bridge. But I do agree with Sabrina, if a place is overcrowded and there's over-tourism, then it can be very tricky, indeed.
Yeah, I can see already, it's on the screen already. Well, the audience agrees with you too, with an tremendous amount, although I can see it's slightly getting less now. Basically, does any of the other speakers want to respond to basically this majority here, or is there something that you want to say? Like, Gitte, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, this is it's for me very interesting because we can also talk about how to build that bridge. Also, of course, why, but also like how do we do it so it actually creates value. And we use it in Copenhagen also as a way of actually spreading out tourism. Hopefully, when we look at hotels as something more than just a place to sleep, we see it as a place where you can interact, you can get great experiences, and you can also develop a new area. You open a door to actually new possibilities. And I think that's very important to state here, because in Copenhagen we're looking very much into how can we spread out tourism. And I think actually hotels can be a very important factor there. It can be very difficult to move the National Museum or Our Little Mermaid, but it would be a really great strategy to start moving the hotels out of the city center, because it's already really crowded. And if you kind of relocate hotels so they can create a destination in a part of the city that's maybe not now a place where tourists go, it can actually be a destination in itself. And it can build that bridge not only between tourists staying at the hotel, but also to the locals that can have this local pride in their area and start seeing it from like the tourist perspective, see new potential, see new business potential, and then you will see an entire area rise, new jobs, more money from the government, whatever. It can really create possibilities to see this hotel and look at how it can build a bridge in several ways.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very nice that you also say like a bit like, okay, what can we do then to actually achieve this, to move beyond just saying that it's useful? Because, of course, this was quite an easy one to start with, this first statement, so massive score there. Let's go to the second one. which is basically we need to get better at attracting and supporting projects and partners with a positive long-term effect on the region. It gets a little bit more, is it difficult or is it not? So before we hear what the audience is saying, I think, yeah, Sabrina, this could be something that would be interesting for you to reflect on, talk about, discuss.
Yeah, sure.
Counter-arguments.
So, I mean, long-term effects in a world that is changing so rapidly, and we are surprised every now and then. We've been surprised this week a couple of times. So it's quite hard to talk about long-term effects and impacts on the region because of these changes that are happening, I believe. And the second challenge that I see associated with this claim is that we have a lot of micro-businesses. We have small and medium-sized enterprises, lifestyle enterprises, so people that start their little cafe or start their little tour operator or whatsoever in a place, but it's more a lifestyle decision to do it for a couple of years, and so that means that their invest is different, and this also means they invest in the industry in the wider region is oftentimes quite different. So this makes the industry so vibrant and interesting, but also more challenging to keep it with the long-term effects. And then we also have the guests, and the guests are changing, and the guests have different ideas about the perfect journey and about the perfect place. And if we look back only a couple of years ago, of course everyone wants to have relaxation, but the relaxation plus what? And the plus what changes a lot, and that means we need different operators, different partners in the region. And this is a major challenge to really attract long-term impacts. And of course, if we see examples like Laura mentioned with some foundations, these are long-term impacts in a wider sense, but these are large projects as well. And they change not only the place as such, but also the destination as a whole. So this is a good sign, but funnily enough, we don't have that so much in our developed world. We do this a lot in the less developed world, but it's not happening so much in our neighborhoods here.
Yeah, maybe I can add something on that. Yeah, because also we saw that in the past, so 10 years ago when we started, all our foundation projects were far away, right? And now we changed that a little bit. So we still have that because we still think it's crucial to support the areas we go to and the areas where might not have been so lucky and the people living there. But now we also have projects closer to here, so closer to home, because there are two aspects. So one, there are actually more travelers going there. So we send more travelers to Greece or Spain or then to Tanzania or Cambodia. And also to include our hotel partners there. Because to ask a hotel partner if they want to fund a project in Tanzania and they are on Crete, doesn't make so much sense for them, right? But if we say now, for example, in Turkey, we have a turtle project, and we say like, it's there, it's at your beach where all your travelers go to, shall we do something together there? Then they're more convinced to do that. And also in our criteria, when we look for new projects, we always check if this project is potentially able to run themselves. I think this is also, when we look at the long-term effect, a very important point, that at a period of 2 or 3 or 4 years, depends a little bit how strong they already are, that they at some point are able to run the project themselves, because then we can continue, find another project partner and have an effect then somewhere else. I think these are maybe what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much. Very interesting, like this whole, how can we do it like in practice? Sorry, you also have how can we do it in practice?
Yeah, and I actually want to say, like, who are we? Like, if we say, like, we need, like, to get better, it's like maybe sometimes we need to actually let go a little bit and make it possible for someone to actually, do some, like, by themselves, not always have to control and interact, maybe just see what happens if we sometimes let go a little bit more. And also, of course, I would say long-term is always good, but it's also important that you can actually see some results. Yeah. Not maybe right away, but it doesn't always have to be in 5 years you will see some great effects. It's also nice and it's very motivating for everyone to see that this is actually doing something now.
Yeah. It's, no, I totally agree. And of course, this is a 100% score, which in a way you could see as positive, but I'm thinking if we would have asked this 5 years ago, it probably would have also been 100%. So it means we've not really gone quite much further than then. So maybe for the next 5 years, we need to try even harder to ensure that in, what have we done, 2029, when there's another session on this, we have basically, no, we're there, it's okay. I doubt we'll ever achieve that, but hopefully we can get a bit further. And I like it, Gitte, that you just replied on who is we. Well, here we have one. DMOs should facilitate, so destination management organizations, marketing organizations, should facilitate and measure the engagement between hotels and communities. Well, you can vote on this, whether you think that or not. Gitte, as you represent the DMO,
Yes.
what do you think of this?
I will totally agree on that and take the responsibility, because someone has to facilitate. People, they just don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'll do some extra work. You need to facilitate, you need to bring people together, and you need to create this frame where people can get inspired. But that can be more like difficult to actually do in practice than to talk about it, because it's very important that the parts that you bring together, they actually see what's in it for me. And sometimes it's very easy when you can say you'll earn more money. It's more difficult when you talk about like a broader set of value, like what's in it for me when it's not only just more money. But that's why it's very important to have the conversation about why are we here and how can we, like, let's just say, create a better world, like we need it. So could we do that in any way with the business we have? And I'm always a very big fan of measuring, because in that way you can actually see, are we moving somewhere? Are we doing something better? But also, as I just said, it's a good way of motivating people, that you can actually see that you are spending your time on something that creates value.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I expect that probably you've all voted, I think now. A lot of you will also agree, but like there's of course also the counter argument. If I would have a very unethical, say an unethical tour operator, cadaver tours, I would say that's great. DMO is doing it. I don't have to do anything. That would be a bit odd, wouldn't it? But so that's why, I mean, I would like, Laura, like as you also represent like the wider industry, we talk a lot about shared ownership. What's your perspective on this?
Well, yeah, so I think we are a bit special there because we have our own DMCs. So we call them DMCs, not DMOs, but yeah, same, but different, but a different perspective from yours. Because we run the tour operator business then from Germany, but we have a worldwide DMC network all over. And so we are lucky enough that we have this longer arm than in the destination, because this, for us, they're our eyes and ears there. And we work super closely with them. For example, we engage them when we look for new projects, because they know their partners better than we ever can, because they know them for years, or they can actually go and check the projects. We can't, I mean, we could fly all over the world and check the projects, but we shouldn't. So I think this is actually our big advantage, that most of the DMCs we actually own and are very close with our colleagues there. I think the challenge there is that, of course, they have tons of other things to do. So first of all, they're in charge of taking care of our travelers, and but they are very motivated. So they're really keen on finding good projects and check them and be in contact with their partners. Because I think also there I would say there is no one size fits all. If we from Frankfurt or Cologne, our both headquarters, would say, okay, these are the projects you have to run, we could do that, but it will be totally different in Vietnam compared to Greece or Tanzania or whatever. So I think it's good to trust them and also to give them the power to choose then the right partners and let them do the magic, basically. And for the measuring part, hard for us as well, I would say. It also depends really on the projects. We're still working on that, to be honest, to have like really good KPIs to measure then the projects and so on, so that we really can also track on the process.
I think two important points that I heard there were like also two words like trust and power, like this trust in the other, and the empowerment of the other is very, very terrifying, but it's very important, I think, from all perspectives, if we want to basically achieve this broader aim.
Who said no? Someone said no.
I'm not going to call out, but
okay.
that's just...
I was just curious.
You are too mean. We'll ask afterwards, the person who said no can come to Gitte and explain.
But maybe just a small thing to add, we also need to ask ourselves, do they want to get engaged, right? And do they want to participate? Because that's what we believe they should. And we've recently asked this question in a relatively big sample, and it's not even 30% that actually want to get engaged. I mean, this is in Germany as a whole, and of course, if you go to a smaller local municipality level and so on, it changes, especially when there's huge pride and people identify with their own place. But this is like an idealized version as well. We want them to get engaged because we want to get a better feeling, because then we believe we've done everything right. But do they want it?
That's another good point, because of course, I mean, I always take myself as an example here. If I cycle to work, I don't want any blooming tourists to come and bother me. There might be other elements or times when I would like to, and I think that's why those you need to find, and that's of course a difficult one. I think we have time for just one quick one to finish it off. Hotel change and the acquisition of managers from outside of the respective communities impede the idea of community-driven hotels. So getting like all those outsiders, that's, well, yeah, why not? Like you just gave a nice little critical perspective. Now let's go for it again.
Okay, I'm the critical one here. Yes, so I believe, I mean, there is difference between what a hotel wants to achieve within the region, I believe. And yes, we do have strong hotel chains, and these strong hotel chains, they have the general idea of their business, and they have their general branding and their general way of working. And that's quite different to a hotel that is maybe family run, that is localized, that is coming from the region to the region. And if we consider that in the hospitality industry, in the hotel industry, it's quite common that people change places, especially at the beginning of the career. They should go to different places to experience the different places, but oftentimes they are not from the region. They are not even necessarily from the country. So they bring their own values to the place, which can be very beneficial. But if they do not understand the community around, how should they bring really value back to the communities? So I would agree with the statement, even if it's maybe a little bit harsh to say. It's not that I want to criticize any specific hotel chain, and I wouldn't even say that it's wrong that they do how they are doing it, but it's a little bit harder to really bring back the community idea in this sense.
Thank you. I don't mind a bit of criticism. I like a sharp discussion as long as it's with respect. So with respect, I think, well, Laura, you're basically, a large corporate. You are a large group. So what's your opinion?
Yeah, I think this would have been perfect for the panelists we lost, this question. But yeah, in general, I would agree. But I think also the last couple of months and years have shown us that actually to find personnel is hard already. So I think in a dream world, yes, I would agree. And I think it's important to train the people where they are and to also make it possible that they can rise, right, and also can take over responsibility and not only just cover like the basic jobs in a hotel, for example. But I would also add that we have seen that it's quite tricky to find good people in general right now, because the market after COVID is just very empty, and actually we suffer quite a bit. Doesn't matter if it's the kitchen or the management and so on. So maybe the whole industry together just has to train even more people and be more and more attractive for then also employees coming and staying. I think this is also a bit of the reality right now.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a good answer. Like the reality of the world is just harsh and it's difficult. And with that, unfortunately, we've run out of time. So I'm sorry that this is a short session. I would have happily continued for at least 20 more minutes. But unfortunately, that's not possible. It's nice to end with your quote that we at least have a little bit of tension here. So ending on a note of tension, I would like to ask Caroline, will you close the thing, or are we closing this now?
I'm happy to close it by thank you a lot for being here, for really being here. Whilst there are so many disruptions out there, but let's say and have a look if next year we can have another conversation on it, and there will be some movement then already, and then we know who we are and how we have taken our responsibility. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Ko. Thank you very much, Gitte. Thank you very much, Laura, and thank you very much, Sabrina. Safe travels, and thank you a lot. And please, a big hand to this great panel.
And for Caroline.
And this does not mean so you are sort of dismissed because you have to run to grab a taxi to the airport. But this does not mean that you have to run, especially if you have some time available. Please stay with us or come back after having a short cup of coffee or refreshment, because we will have one special treat for you here in this blue stage. There will be a future scenario workshop with Fraunhofer Institute, who has done valuable research into the future of hotels and hospitality. And we take you in their world of scenarios. And yeah, you can contribute a bit, but by contributing, you will be learning a lot, I promise. So hopefully see you in, let's say, 10 minutes. See you then.